MATLAB has tons and tons and tons of built-in functions. MATLAB organizes all these built-in functions into what are called help topics. Now, if you're in the command window at the prompt and you just type help, that will show you a long list of all of these different help topics. If you then type help and the name of a particular help topic, it'll show you the names of all of the functions in that particular help topic and a very brief description of each. If you want to find out about a particular function, you type help and the name of the function, and that'll give you a lot of information about what the function does, how it works, and also gives you a link to a reference page online that has even more information about the function. Now, unfortunately, MATLAB doesn't prevent you from using the name of a function as a variable name, but if you do that, you're not going to be able to use the function until you get rid of the variable with that name. So here's a sequence that shows how this works. So let's start by clearing, so I get rid of all of my variables. Then I'm going to just demonstrate the use of the int min function that show me, for example, the minimum value in the range for the type int 8, and that value is negative 128. But then I'm going to wipe out that function by using the name of the function as a variable, by assigning to the name int min the value of 2. And then I'm going to try to do exactly what I did before and find out the minimum value in the type int 8, and I get an error message because I can't use the function because now I've used it as a variable name. So if I then clear the variable name, I'll then be able to use that as a function again. So unfortunately, this is true for all functions in MATLAB. You can use the name of a function as a variable, but then you're not going to be able to use the function. If at any point a function's not working for you, maybe this is what has happened. Maybe you've used the name of the function as a variable and you need to clear it in order to get access to the function again. All of the operators in MATLAB have an equivalent functional form. So for example, if you want to add two numbers together, you can use the plus operator. I could say 3 plus 4 to give me 7 as a result. Or I could use the plus function. Plus 3 comma 4 is also going to give me 7 as a result. Now if I wanted to add three numbers together, as an expression I could say 3 plus 4 plus 2 and get 9. But the plus function only expects 2 input arguments, so I can't pass 3 input arguments to the plus function. Instead, what I would have to do is to nest calls to the plus function. So I could say, for example, plus 3 comma 4, that will add 3 and 4 and give me a 7 as a result, and then I could say plus the 7 comma 2, and that gives me 9 as a result. So again, all of the operators in MATLAB have an equivalent functional form. MATLAB has several functions that work with random numbers. First of all, it has a couple of functions that generate random numbers. The function rand generates random real numbers, and the function randi generates random integers. There's also a function RNG that is used to set the seed for either of the random functions, rand or randi. So the RNG function is used to set the seed. There are several different ways that you can call it. If you pass to the RNG function the word shuffle, so as a string, what that will do is that uses the actual clock in the computer, uses the clock function to get the actual time, the date and the time, and it uses a combination of those numbers as the seed. You can also just pass a number to the RNG function to use that particular number as the seed. And MATLAB has a default value, so if you don't specify, there is a default value that MATLAB will use for the seed, and you can pass the word default to RNG in order to get that. So usually if you want a truly random set of numbers, every time you get into MATLAB and you generate random numbers, you want a different set, the shuffle option is going to be the best option. So that'll guarantee a different set of random numbers every time you get in. So the rand function generates a random real number in the range from 0 to 1, and that's an open interval, meaning that it doesn't include the 0 or the 1. When you call the rand function, you don't need to pass any arguments to it. Now, if you want a random real number in another range besides 0 to 1, you can basically manipulate the expression. So for example, if I just say rand, that gives me a random real number in the range from 0 to 1. But if I multiply that by 5, I'm going to get a random real number in the range from 0 to 5. The randi function is used to generate random integers, and you can specify the range of values. So there are several ways that you can call the randi function. If I say randi and then parentheses a number I max, it'll generate a random integer in the range from 1 to that number, whatever that happens to be. I can also specify a range. So if I say randi and then in parentheses this vector imin comma I max, it'll generate a random integer in the range from imin to imax. So whatever numbers I specify. So if I say in square brackets 5, 20, for example, then I'm going to get a random integer in the range from 5 to 20.